I'm Ricardo Cortes. I'm an artist, writer, and publisher, and I live in Brooklyn. Growing up, I was always drawing. Ever since I was a kid, I wasn't in art school. I didn't really take many art classes, but it was just something that I could always do. So I was always drawing and taking in like artists like Dali was a huge influence to me as a child. Like just seeing his work so weird and just it kind of broadened my perspective of what's possible and that people are doing, things like that. As I got older, I started to fall for the other side of the spectrum, Norman Rockwell, who is similarly talented and gifted and skilled as an artisan, but subject matter is so different. Those two kind of are maybe the poles of how I like to work. And there's a side of me that's really into the surreal, maybe psychedelic, strange type of work, but I also really appreciate the meticulousness, the craftsmanship, and the storytelling of someone like Rockwell. A lot of my work deals with some kind of provocative issues, political. My first book that I even got into publishing and into making books was a children's book about marijuana. I kind of came into the game as more of an illustrator, and also someone who just in my own life was interested in political issues, specifically drug policy, things like that. So that's what kind of got me into making books, was the idea of being able to talk about these issues in a different way. And specifically, if a children's book, I thought, well, there's not many children's books about, say for example, legalization of marijuana. If I were to just be writing, a long-form story, I think there's a lot of stuff out there like that. So I wanted to use my skill, which primarily is that of an artist. That's where I come from more than as a writer, and to be using my skills to talk about these issues. I'm interested in expanding the boundaries of what we articulate to our kids. I think that there's a lot of room to play because there's a lot of rules that have been set up. There's a lot of authors are already out there. That when Maurice Sendak first came out and was doing Where the Wild Things Were, even that was, at the time, I think there were a lot of people who were saying that it's a little too angry, or it's not already fitting in the confines of what we think of as a children's book. And obviously we know in hindsight that there was still a lot more room to play. I'm interested in taking things that are very complex issues, and breaking them down into really simple language that anyone can understand. That's one of my favorite Malcolm X quotes, where he says, you can break something down to a language that everybody here can easily understand. So using a language, simplifying it, breaking it down, doing complex conversations, but articulating it in a simple way. And I like to do that visually and with the words. So that's what I'm trying to do in a lot of my work. So in my work and in my space, the environment that I gravitate toward and what I like to surround myself in, there's a lot of creative artists that I'm friends with, that I work with, that just inspire me to do the type of things that I'm doing. And it's also, at least for my work, there's also a political edge to it, and maybe an activist edge to it. And so a lot of the work that I surround myself with is similar in that respect too. I think I'm always kind of battling and struggling, or just balancing between the aesthetics of art and the beauty. I'm a fan of craftsmanship and the beauty of a well-crafted portrait. But I also like to inform the work with some meaning behind it, or some research that I've looked into and a story that I want to tell. But also, sometimes I just like to have fun with it, and just make some really crazy, psychedelic, colorful stuff. So I think there's a lot of that questioning, as I'm always doing with the work. And even in a piece that itself is already maybe politically minded, I really like to try to have some balance in it, some fun, some humor, and at the same time always have a foundation of good work visually that I can just be proud of. At the end of the day, a lot of my work does have this provocative, maybe shocking, even you could hear the titles. It's Go the Fuck to Sleep, or I Don't Want to Blow You Up, which is a coloring book about terrorism, or It's Just a Plant, a children's book about marijuana. The perception could be that this is a lot of shock to try to stir things up, but also along with that, what's more important to me is that inside those works, there's a really strong foundation. There's a story to it. There's work. There's research that backs it up, or there's just great drawings that I'm trying to put across. So It's not enough to just be provocative just for the sake of shock and awe. That's not really what it's about. But that's fun. That's a fun part of it too, to have along with the, with the work inside.